I don't know how I got this assignment, but I'm very happy that I did. I pulled the long straw, so I'm very happy.
Oh, please.
I hadn't realized that you meditate pretty much every day.
I do. It's a big difference when I don't, actually. I feel almost kind of like, I feel like I'm playing catch up when I don't meditate.
When did you start? How did you get started?
I started meditating out of need, actually. When I was in my early 20s, I had severe panic attacks, and I couldn't really find a way. I didn't know what else to do, really. It was kind of like the last resource. I felt like
When would they come on? When would the panic attacks come on?
Pretty much, I mean, it started in a little plane, but I was pretty severe having them for about 9 months. But they started in a little plane, and then it became like tunnels, elevators, airplanes, buildings that windows wouldn't open, and then it became my own apartment. And I mean, it was just like it became like my world that just kept becoming smaller and smaller and smaller. And I needed to find a solution and the way out, and I've always, been connected, I would say, to a very trusting of the spirit realm, let's say, that way. And then I prayed, I pray because every time when you go through the worst times in your life, I mean, that's when you go to praying. I mean, that's what I do. And it came to me the idea of yoga, and then I found a teacher, and instead of just doing asanas, we start practicing meditation every day about 5:30 in the morning. Mm-hmm. So that's how I started my practice of meditation, in hopes to, and then it was basically pranayama breathing techniques, which is the alternate nostril breathing, which is the one that you alternate. It helps to balance the left and the right side of the brain.
I had never heard of that until Hillary Clinton wrote about that in her book. I don't know if anybody else knew that.
The alternate nostril breathing?
And I actually asked Hillary Clinton about it, and one of my producers was like, you know what, you should ask her to do it. And I was like, there's no way Hillary Clinton is gonna do the alternate nostril breathing technique on camera. And I went, you know what, let's try. And I asked, and she was like more than happy to just start doing all.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. Yeah, it's pretty easy. I mean, it's basically like, you inhale from one side and then exhale from the other, and then inhale again. You just kind of alternate the inhale, and you can go on Google too, because otherwise it's gonna take a long time. But it's right away you feel the effects on it. And I always should do 10 minutes of that. It kind of gets you to a space that is very clear. And then meditating after that. So I was really that was, besides changing my diet and actually allow me to see life in a completely different way, because before that, I was a person who was going 100 miles an hour on the hamster wheel and just chasing my own tail.
You'd already started modeling.
I was modeling since I was 14. Right. So that was when I was in my early 20s. I was 23 years old. Right. And that's when my practice of meditation started.
And did you notice an impact very quickly?
I did, because I was having the severe panic attacks for a long time, and I had changed my diet. I was really stopped drinking coffee, stopped smoking, but I was still having kind of high anxiety about things, and I think the breathing and the meditation daily really helped me, because it helped center me, and it helped me become the observer versus being in the middle of the storm. I was able to kind of step back and see that almost like I was able to watch my life as a movie, and I was able to, by taking a step back, I was kind of being able to kind of remove myself from that anxiety and from the middle of that feeling of not being able to catch my breath and feeling like I was going to pass out.
You could still see the thoughts or the feelings, but they didn't affect you in the.
Not in the same way, because you become the observer. So it's like you're watching a movie, and when you're watching a movie, you can be crying because you can be feeling all the emotions that are going through the movie, but it's a movie in a way, You're kind of looking at that, and there's a part of you the dinosaur is coming to kill this person, let's say, but so you can feel all the feelings of, okay, run, but at the same time, you kind of know you're not, the dinosaur is not after you, basically. So I think in a way, it's you're able to see your life, and then you can see also making this is really good in allowing, you can make decisions from a place of really, instead of rush decisions and I have to make this decision, and you're not very clear about it. When you can take a step back and become the observer, you make decisions with a different level of awareness, with a different clarity, and therefore better decisions, I feel.
Do you find, one of the things I talked about before when I was on stage is that even if I don't meditate at 20 minutes a day or 30 minutes a day or several times a day, whatever, even a minute or two in a car or in a plane, it can center you in a way.
Oh, big time. I really think so. I mean, I think in the very beginning when I was going through my severe anxiety and panic attacks, I actually went into like, I don't know if you guys ever heard about Vipassana, which is like a 10-day, like intense meditation. I actually do like 7 days and go in silence and just meditate for 7 days. And with that, a lot of stuff comes up. Obviously, when you're not talking, you realize how much the monkey mind is trying to take control, because that's the job of the mind, right? Is to kind of, it's like a friend told me this once. He says, Gisele, the mind is an instrument. Don't let it play you. So it's a really powerful thing to remember, to be just remember that, that's the job of the mind, is to hold on to things and to kind of attach to things. And it's your job to say, I choose this thought and I don't choose that. And because whatever you give energy to is what grows. I actually have a chapter in my book that it talks about that. It's like, where your energy goes is what grows. And it's like, we have to choose where we put our energy in, because that's where we're going to manifest. So it's the more consciously and we can make those choices and where we're letting our mind go, the better it's going to be for us. And I think meditation, what it does today, for example, I use meditation for lots of different things, even if for 5 minutes, like I can sit and I want to answer to a question. Mm-hmm. So I can sit in meditation. Usually I like to do it at 5:30 in the morning, because I love before my kids are up, before the dog starts crying to go outside. All of that is that's like my favorite thing, because everything is quiet and the
Wake
energy.
Up at 5:30 in the morning.
Yes, between 5:30 and 5:45.
Time do you get to bed?
About 10.
Wow.
Yeah, never. I mean, really.
I wake up at like 10.
What do you mean?
I like 10 in the morning. I wake up like I.
What time you go to bed?
I don't know, like 2 a.m. I'm watching Narcos and stuff on Netflix.
Oh my God. You see, I'm a morning person. I actually like to wake up before the sun. I mean, I love.
Oh, that's great. I would say I was like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I used to be that person, but then it wasn't really working out for me so well, so I had to make a little adjustment.
Right.
So sometimes, we have to adjust. It's like, we are like, there's different cycles in our life. And when I was in my 20s, maybe I was going to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning, but now I'm a mom. I have, kids. They get up early in the morning. They need things. So I feel like if I can take care of myself, if I can put the oxygen mask on me first and do something for me first, then I'm a much better mom. I'm much more patient. I'm happier.
The profession that you're in, especially early on, people are making judgments about you, whether to hire you for this. They're commenting on your looks. They form judgments about you. A lot of it is not in your control. And I think for a lot of people in their life, they feel like things are not in as much in their control as they would like it to be. Did meditation help you feel more in control of things?
I think more than anything, it allowed me to have this different kind of understanding and, in a way, acceptance for what is. Because I think anytime there is no acceptance for what is, whenever there is resistance, there is pain. Because, we can't control. I always say, in my prayers or when I'm talking to, my guardian angel, however you want to call your higher self, I always ask, show me the way, guide me, and whatever happens, help me be for my highest and best. And I have to trust that. And sometimes the highest and best might be not the thing that my mind has decided that that's the way it needs to go. Because I think our mind has a tendency, we have a lot of conditioning that comes from our family, comes from religion, comes from society, so we live in this box and it has to look a certain way because we've been taught that way. Like if he's out of this box, doesn't feel safe. He doesn't, but the universe, there's a higher intelligence, I believe, that knows better than we do. And I think if we can trust that higher intelligence and saying things are happening for me, not to me, things are happening for my growth, for my, evolution. I think when there is an acceptance, there is no pain because you trust, there is trust. And you say, okay, this is coming up, however the challenge it is, it can be challenging, it could be, sometimes it's very intense. And you have to, I think that when there is that acceptance, there is, you kind of trust that that things are happening for you.
Has it made you a better parent, do you think?
I think so. I think it's made me a better person. You know what I mean? I think I don't try to be so. I mean, I think before I used to be a person who was very like, you know, I need to have things under control, and I think that's part of my panic attacks. You know, I didn't have control over a lot of things, you know, and I feel like that also brought a lot of anxiety because I didn't know the future. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know tomorrow, you know, and I think all of that became like things that kind of created the anxiety, kind of made it more. And I think once I trust it in a way, once I kind of like allow it to just be whatever it was going to be and just say thank you and just make the best out of whatever situation there might be, then my life became a lot better. And I think even with my children, you know, it's like I'm not trying, you know, they are perfect little beings. You know, I feel like my job as their mom is just to be their guardian.
How old are they?
I have a bonus child who's 11. I have an 80-year-old and a 5-year-old. So 2 boys and a girl. And they're wonderful, and they're so different. They couldn't be more different in personalities. They're incredible. And they teach me every day, and you know, and with each one of them, I'm always like, it's like a dance, because each of them have different needs. They all have different, you know, if you talk with one of them, you know, it doesn't work necessarily the way you would talk with my daughter, that you would talk with my son, or, you know, they all have different ways of, they operate differently. And it's beautiful to witness them and to watch them and to expand. They allow me to expand and grow in ways that I never thought.
Is meditation, I mean, some people try to get their kids to meditate. Is that something
You know, Benny actually, he's my, all of them actually. This is a funny story, like, because I meditate, like, usually when I'm in Costa Rica, I love to meditate outside. I like to sit on the grass just because I just love nature so much. I feel like nature carries a very high vibration, and anytime I'm around nature, I already feel like my energy is like, I feel uplifted, I feel like I'm being healed somehow. And Benny's very connected to that as well. So anytime I'm sitting outside, he just come and I'm in my position, you know, I'm just sitting there. He just comes and sits with me and just stays there with me. Like, that's just like, he loves doing that. It's just natural for him. My little one, she's 5 years old. She's a firecracker. So she's like, sitting her down is a little bit, you know, sitting a 5-year-old down. She's like, it's not really her thing yet. But for Benny, it's really like, you know, a natural thing for him. And Jack has also actually gave him a little pillow, and I said, you know, if you feel like there is too much, you can go to any space in the house and just sit here, and this is your space, and everyone knows that if you're here, it's your space, and no one is going to bother you. Because sometimes kids can get each other's nerves, you know, it's like...
Do you plan very far? Before you were out here, I was talking to Soren, and it was saying that for me, I'm sort of trying to think of what my second act is, or I'm 51 now, and I sort of feel like I've been in this big rush, and now I feel like I need to figure out some sort of new chapter. Do you feel like you know what the next chapter is? It definitely has to do with, I mean, I think know thyself is the most important thing for me. You know, I've been in this quest since I was very young, since I left home at 14 years old. And I feel like now I'm getting to understand myself better. So I think that's always for me like a constant work that happens all the time. But I definitely feel like I'm in a different chapter of my life, because I feel like when I started working at 14 years old and I was out in the world, I felt like I needed to be a pleaser. You know, I needed to like, first I wanted to please my parents because I wanted to be the good girl. I have 5 sisters, I'm a middle child and a twin, you know. Never feel very much special at all, you know, kind of like you're the middle, whatever. And I think that at this point in my life, I just want to be, I think before I was like the doors were opening for me, and I was just kind of taking the opportunities and doing the best I could and being really very much a pleaser. And I think now you know, I don't really, it's more about like living my truth. It's about like discovering like what are the things that really like speak with my heart? What are the things that I feel inspired by that bring joy to my everyday experience? Because, you know, it's not, life is not about the destination, it's about the journey, but the journey is happening every day with every choice you make. Because it's not guaranteed that we're gonna be here tomorrow, and I wanna live like, I feel like I wanna live to the fullest every moment. So I think the next chapter like is much more of that every day. Is like, you know, am I living my truth? Am I doing what makes me happy? It's incredible to think you left home. I mean, you grew up in a small town in southern Brazil.
Yeah.
I love Brazil. I had not heard of the town you're from. That's how small it is.
Yeah.
I've studied Brazil. You left at 14.
Yeah.
And traveling the world from then on.
Yeah, I left at 14. I moved to Japan. I lived in Japan for 3 months when I was 14. And then...
What was that? I mean, just going from a small town in southern Brazil to suddenly being in Japan.
You know, I think my mom did an incredible job as the guardian that she was for all of us, because I felt very independent at 14 for some reason. You know, at 14 sometimes, I don't know if you guys feel that way, but at 14 you feel like you know everything. For some reason, 14 years old is that age where you're like, I know, I can take care of myself. So I was living out in the world, and I knew how to cook and clean and all that stuff because I was doing all that at home, sharing the house chores with my 5 sisters. And so when I left, I felt like I already knew how to do that, so I felt like that's covered. And then I discovered, you know, I was very naive though, so I had to learn pretty quickly, but I saw a lot of different crazy stuff happening around me. And then I realized, well, you know, now I'm out in the world and I have to be really...
Was your mom with you?
No.
Wow.
My mom was with my 5 sisters, so I left home alone at 14, and I never went back. But at 16, I moved to New York, and I didn't speak a word of English or Japanese, so it was pretty interesting living in Japan without speaking English or Japanese. I just said yes to everything. Yes. You know, so I felt like that would be easy, and then at 16, I moved
she's so agreeable. She's so nice.
Yeah, I guess I'm not that agreeable today. So I think, you know, I'm like, okay, let me think about it. But I didn't speak English, so I just didn't want them to think that, you know, I guess people always thought mothers were like, you know, dumb, and I didn't want to kind of let them think that of me. So I was like, maybe I'll just pretend I know English even though I don't. So then just living alone since I'm 14 and being out in the world is like I said, you know, I didn't go to high school, but I feel like I have a diploma on the school of life in so many ways, because I think when you go out in the world and you figure it out, you learn pretty quickly, you know, when your parents are not there to protect you, you know, how to make decisions, and you have to be, you know, you have to take accountability for your decisions because there is nobody there to protect you. So.
The other thing you speak out a lot on is in the environment. And
oh yeah.
You're backstage talking about Mother Earth, which, you know.
We are all her children. I mean, I always say, you know, it's funny to me. I've been working with the UN on trying my best to talk about what's happening with our environment, and I always think it's kind of funny how here we are destroying the very thing that provides us with life, you know, I mean, our food, our air, our home, I mean, everything we have comes from Mother Earth. And yet we feel like we can just keep taking and exploiting natural resources like they're never ending. But, you know, there's only an amount of water, there's only an amount of natural resources, and we are just kind of going through them like there is no tomorrow, you know. And you see cities like São Paulo, for example, who, you know, Brazil is one of the, between Brazil and the continent of Africa, the largest places of fresh water in the world, and we had a drought, you know. Cape Town was without water, you know, and I think it's just so much is happening, and because everything is going so fast, and everybody's saying, oh, we have to use this because, you know, for progress. I'm like, what kind of progress are you going to have when you don't have any more, you know?
Do you find that your meditation practice, because I think a lot of people, when they think about meditation, we talked, some of the earlier speakers talked about this as well, think about meditation as being just something that's very inward and focused on themselves. Do you find your meditation practice also makes you more kind of outward focused on the world?
I think it just gives you a different kind of awareness. I think you see things from a different place. I think everything slows down and you become more conscious of, I think, of everything, because when you meditate, what you do is like you become silent. And I think especially in our society today, everything has happened so fast. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, you know, there was no cell phones. Like, even when I moved to Japan, I had to use the calling cards to call my mom and be like, you know, you got $1 left. And I called my mom like once a month from Japan, because there was no, you know, 1994, you know, 1995. And I think, you know, someone calls the house and you're like, wait a minute, I'll get the message from my mom. You know, I remember when the phones came out and they had actually the message that you can leave a message. Before that, you couldn't. So you had like a notepad and a pencil next to the phone to leave the message. And I think it was in a way so great because, you know, people who could do their job and then could go home and they would have conversations at the dinner table with their family, and they would, if people couldn't catch them at work, they would have to wait to the next day. And now I think with this kind of speed up process where you're available 24/7, I think is really creating a lot more anxiety. So I think even more so it's important to have the moments, if, like you said, a few times a day. I don't think you need to go for like 7, a Vipassana or like 5 days. Maybe sometimes you do if you have a specific thing you're dealing with, but if it would be good if every day you can check in, if it's 2 minutes in a car ride, if it's 5 minutes in the morning when you wake up, if it's before you go to bed, if it's before an important meeting, just to take a moment, go inward, focus on your breath, deep breathing, and just allow yourself to to kind of decompress. I think is essential to be able to deal with the amount of pressure we have in our society today. I mean, I don't know how else. I mean, I couldn't do it without it. I tell you that much.
Did you, when you started, you said you had started with yoga, did you have a yoga teacher who you also started doing meditation with, or did you just start doing it, reading about it, and doing it? In
the beginning, I started with a yoga teacher. She came to my house, like I said, 5:30 every morning, because I had to work. I was like a workaholic, so like I needed to do it really early so I could do the Vipassanas, which there's yoga is a philosophy, so it's really like pranayama is a part of the breathing techniques, but then the asanas are the actual postures, and the meditation is all different aspects of yoga. And so I used to study yoga, the philosophy of yoga. So it was the breathing techniques and all of those different things with the yoga teacher. That's how I started in the very beginning. And then once I felt like I knew, like I kind of knew enough of how to do it, then my practice is by myself. Like I practice by myself. You can do it anywhere. That's the thing, you don't need any tools. Like, I'm traveling all the time in a hotel room. I can have a tiny little space just to do a few Vipassana, a few asanas, and sit there and do a 5-minute meditation. It can be in the car, it can be in my bed, it can be in the airplane, it could be anywhere.
You get your husband to do it as well?
He does it. No, but he does it. He actually does it. He does it, and I don't think he does it as often as I do because he's naturally a more grounded person. I feel like I am very, my attention goes lots of different places. I'm a multitasker, and my mind just is very busy mind. So I feel like I need to, I notice when I need it, I'm like, I'll stop right now, and I just need 5 minutes. And I'm a different person, I'm telling you. It is completely different when I don't do it. And then when I see myself getting kind of like ants in my pants, and I feel like a little bit like agitated, and I can't really, I'm like, this is a good moment for me to take 5 minutes and just go inward, and then I come out of it. I don't know if it's because I allow myself to breathe deeply, and I can really feel myself getting back into my body, because I think a lot of times when the anxiety and all those things comes, like if you notice you're not breathing, you're outside of your body, everything becomes very hectic, and then if you can just center yourself, just take that moment, is a gift that costs nothing, is a gift, is the biggest gift, I think, that you can just, all it takes is the awareness to say, I'm gonna take this 5 minutes or 2 minutes or however long I have right now to just sit in silence and breathe,
The book is called Lessons, My Path to a Meaningful Life. For you, what is a meaningful life?
I think a meaningful life is to live your life with purpose, to feel like you have, I think we all have a gift, each one of us. I think we all come here with a special gift that is unique to us. We are singular. We have something that we can offer that nobody else can, that only we have. And I think is to find whatever that is within you and use it in service of others.
It's not an easy thing to find. For a lot of people, I mean.
Yeah, I would say so. It's not, because I think it takes a lot of asking, self-inquiry. It takes a lot of asking yourself, or sometimes it could be something that you can have an epiphany and find it. I don't know. I think it can be different for everyone. I think some people, I have stories of people that they were completely unconscious of how they were living their life, and one day something happened and they woke up and they were like, oh my God, So I think that can happen, or it can be a process, that takes you there.
But meditation helped you on that path to finding what was meaningful for you?
Completely. I've always been a person who's been a seeker of who am I, why am I here? I grew up in the south of Brazil. You know, Brazil is a very religious country, Catholic country, and my family very Catholic. And I remember asking the religious teacher, excuse me, like if God, you know, if Jesus says, you know, like don't make judgments, like, you know, you offer the other cheek, basically, if someone hits you in one cheek, offer the other. Like, why is this 10 commandments? Like, you know, it seems kind of like contradiction. Like I was like,
that must have gone over well.
I actually went to the principal's office. And I didn't really understand why she sent me to the principal's office. I was like, excuse me, you didn't give me the answer still. What's the answer to that question? I think I was like 12. So when I left home at 14 to the school of the world, I decided
the school
that...
must have been relieved when you left.
They were like, I was actually an A student.
Okay.
Because, you know, that was one thing I could control was my grades. I was like, I'm going to study, you know, and have good grades. So I was a pretty, like, not troublemaker in school. But
except by asking questions.
But I had definitely questions that weren't answered. But you know, I think that self-inquiry, that curiosity about life this is why I study Buddhism and Taoism and Judaism, I mean, Kabbalah and astrology and numerology. I mean, I've been studying all that stuff since I was 14 years old because I was trying to figure out, like, someone has to give me an answer of why am I here? Like, it must be for something. I mean, so I was, you know, pretty curious about discovering what that was. And I really came to believe that we are all special and unique, and we are all here because we are one, and by each of us contributing to whatever gift that it is that we have, you know. Some people are here like to be amazing mothers and to be like just you know, people who give amazing nourishment, and some people are amazing listeners, and some people are amazing with the earth, and some people are amazing because they're going to ask the difficult questions and push people to think, to, you know, to think outside of the box. And I think we are all, you know...
one of the things I've struggled with, and I've noticed, I think I've inherited from my mom is never content. It's never, nothing, you know, she wanted to be a mother, but when she was, she still had this drive to create things. And I realize as I've gotten older, how much like her I am in that sense of sort of rarely being content with where I'm at. Do you feel content?
I do, but I feel like I'm always pushing myself out of my comfort zone. I would say I'm never comfortable, really. I feel like if I feel like I'm comfortable, I'm not growing. So that's the thing I have. I feel like, okay, if I'm too comfortable, I'm not expanding, I'm not challenging myself enough. So I'm constantly like looking for things that would challenge me, that would kind of take me out of my comfort zone so I can grow. Because I think that's, you know, it's like, think of a seed, you know, it's not comfortable to grow, you know, like he's got to burst out of that hard shell and then go through the earth and then fight her way through to get to surface, you know. It's like our birth, you know, we come to I mean, it's life, you know. It's like we have to overcome the challenges so we can be born, you know, come in the other side, you know, stronger. And I think that's why, this is why I love life, because it's so like amazing.
Do you look forward to aging? I mean, do you look forward to? I mean, it's a.
I don't know about aging. I would prefer to age without all the wrinkles, but I love. I think I would definitely say that I'm happier today than I've ever been in my life.
Because I mean, confidence does come with some age.
And I think not just confidence, I think wisdom. You know, I think there's things that you have no way of knowing when you are 14 or 20 years old. You know what I mean? Because you're growing and you're going through those experiences, and you have to, there's certain things you just have to live through to kind of know that it's not gonna kill you, you know what I mean? If it doesn't kill you, the chances are it can make you stronger. And I think I like to really think in that way. And I feel like life is such a gift. And I feel like everything is a positive as long as we're learning from it. So whatever it is, that's my attitude about life, you know. And I think it's not about, and I think only with time we get the opportunity to experience all those different color, you know, the whole rainbow of colors that life, you know, we don't know what's in storage for us, but if we can have an open heart and just be ready for it and thankful and grateful for it, whatever it is, and just make the best of whatever it is, I think life can be pretty fantastic. And I think it's not about aging, I think it's about growing in wisdom, I would say, better, yeah. Don't you think? I think, yeah, just evolving and growing. I mean, that's, I think, why we're here, right?
Well, the book is Lessons, My Path to a Meaningful Life. Thank you so much, Gisele.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.